Hi, and welcome back to the Maybe I Can podcast. I'm your host, Debbie Weiss, and thank you so much for joining me today. I love chatting with you, and I absolutely am excited to talk to you about today's topic. Let me start with an idea, and maybe you can figure out what sprinkle it is that I'm going to talk about today. I don't know about you, but I've caught myself saying things like, maybe next year. Well, when life settles down, when I have more money, when my responsibilities aren't so overwhelming, when I'm healthier or in better shape, when I'm done with caregiving, when I know exactly what I'm doing. One day it hit me. I've spent years waiting, not for circumstances, but for permission. Permission to enjoy my life, permission to pursue my dreams, permission to stop feeling guilty, and permission to matter. I've realized that most of us are living by invisible rules, like good caregivers always put themselves last, or I shouldn't enjoy myself while someone I love is suffering. Life has to settle down before I can begin actually living again. I have to have all the answers before I take that first step. Who made these rules? I mean it. Who made them? Did someone actually tell you those things? Or have you simply repeated them to yourself for so long that they feel true? As I look back over my life, I realize there were 4 permission slips I had to learn to write for myself. Today, we're talking about a sprinkle of permission. And I love the idea of calling them permission slips. And now let's give ourselves those permission slips. So we're going to talk about 4 of them today. Permission slip number 1, I give myself permission to choose joy. Permission slip number 2, I give myself permission to keep living while life is still hard. Permission slip number 3, I give myself permission to stop waiting for perfect timing. And permission slip number 4, I give myself permission to move forward without having everything figured out. Every major turning point in my life began when I stopped waiting for someone else to say yes, and I started saying yes for myself. So, let's get started with permission slip number 1. I give myself permission to choose joy. Let's talk about maybe some rules that I already mentioned that, good caregivers just don't leave their loved ones. Or if I choose myself, I'm being selfish. That's a big one, right? Who made this rule? I mean, I certainly have felt that way my entire life. And even though I know that you've probably heard this story, it's a big one for me because it was really the turning point of my life, of this chapter of my life. It was huge. And it was when I finally gave myself permission to leave my family, even though my husband really didn't want to. I felt overwhelmed leaving him in charge of the responsibilities and my kids and what they had to do and where they had to go. I'm talking about I didn't leave them permanently. I left them for 2 or 3 nights, and I was not going to go. When did this happen? When I was turning 50, my girlfriend said, let's go away for the weekend to celebrate. You need a break. This is a big birthday, and we've got to go do this. We've never done anything like this before. And like I said, I really wanted to go, but immediately I felt so guilty leaving Gary and leaving the boys. And I was like, should I? Shouldn't I? Thank goodness I have excellent friends who really insisted and convinced me that it was okay. And so I went. And it was still to this day, I would say, the best weekend of my life. Because for decades, I had really not allowed myself, I had never given myself permission to feel joy. I was always worried about all my responsibilities and taking care of everyone and everything. And I thought, well, when life settles down, when life isn't hard, that's when I'll give myself permission. But my friends forced me to give myself permission when I turned 50. And in those couple of days away, I realized I had lost my laugh. I hadn't laughed like that since I was a kid. I was relaxed. I felt like myself again. And I started caregiving for my father when I was 17. I didn't remember who I was as a person. And after that, we started planning annual trips because the next year, my cousin turned 50. And then the next year, it was someone else. And we wound up making it an annual tradition, really, up till COVID. And since then, we've kickstarted it again. After I did it the first time and everybody survived, even though they might not have liked it, that's okay. I still felt a little guilty, but it was well worth it. Because one of the biggest myths we believe is if I feel guilty, I must be doing something wrong, right? But that's not necessarily true. Sometimes guilt simply means you're doing something different, which I was. You're breaking an old pattern, not necessarily making a bad decision. I want you to think about, where is guilt making your decisions? What joy have you convinced yourself that you don't deserve? And then, after you ask yourself those questions, I want you to say, who made that rule? Most of the time with all these rules, and we've talked about this before, they're rules that we've developed from maybe when we were a child and something that our parents or our teachers or our peers told us. How over time, maybe we took something that society leads us to believe, but it's not necessarily true. Permission slip number 2. I give myself permission to keep living while life is still hard. And I gotta say, this is a hard one. At least it was and still is for me. What's the rule that we believe? My life has to stop when someone I love is suffering. Who made that rule? Who made that rule? And I get it because, like I said, this is a hard one for me too. This is another story that you might have heard if you've been a regular listener, but it bears repeating, especially when it comes to permission. So back in 2022, I was considering writing a book, even though I was scared out of my mind. I had no idea how to write a book, didn't really believe that I could. And I was listening to a podcast. I heard this woman being interviewed. She helped first-time authors get their stories out there. I contacted her. I really liked her. She made me believe that I could do it. And she said, this is perfect timing because I'm just launching a small group coaching program for first-time authors. And I thought to myself, well, if I'm ever going to give this a go, I know myself. Group coaching works for me. Small groups work for me. I thrive on that. My friends used to call me, not used to, still would, a groupaholic. But I was scared to do it for a variety of reasons. And this is personal reasons, a fear of failure, a fear of making a fool of myself, of being judged, all the things. But I was working up the courage. And then Gary got diagnosed with terminal blood cancer. And I was speaking to my therapist. I was seeing a therapist at the time. And I had shared all this with her. And I said to her, well, obviously, I was just about to join but obviously I'm not joining now. Gary got this diagnosis. I have no idea what the next few months, years hold. I don't know anything. And this certainly is not the time to spend this money and this time because, right, if I spend this money, I feel like I don't want it to be wasted. So I have to devote time to weekly meetings and actually writing and all the things. And she said to me, I think this is the perfect time to join the program. And I thought to myself, this woman is crazy. Do you hear what I just said? My husband is dying. You think this is a good time for me to try something new? I think I should wait. She's going to offer this again, and every ounce of me should be focused on Gary and my kids. I mean, this feels so selfish, and what are other people going to think of me? They're going to think that I am selfish and not caring for my husband and my family. But I listened to her. And boy, was she right. Because writing and being part of this program honestly became my lifeline. It gave me something else to focus on other than what was happening in my life, which was really hard, needless to say. It gave me a purpose. It gave me hope. It was exciting, even though it was hard. And it gave me perspective. And it reminded me that although Gary's life was ending, and this sounds selfish, but really it's not. Mine wasn't. Mine was not ending. And this, more than anything else, really saved me through a difficult time because it did give me something else to focus on. And I made sure it happened because I could have joined that program. And when things got hard, they were already hard. So I guess I should say even harder. I could have quit. I could have abandoned it. But at that point, I had already discovered that by me prioritizing writing, that doesn't mean prioritizing over Gary and all of the things. But no, I prioritized when am I going to write? I'm going to write before Gary gets up in the morning. I'm going to bring my computer to the hospital. If he's in the hospital, I'm going to write while he's sleeping or he's going down for a test. And it gave me something else of my own just to focus on. One of the biggest lessons was that continuing to live my life during this time, it wasn't abandoning someone you love. I didn't abandon Gary. I was there for him. And honestly, because I was doing something for myself, it helped me show up as a better caregiver. Permission isn't choosing yourself instead of someone else. Not at all. It's refusing to disappear for having you disappear while you're loving someone else and you're caring for someone else. What have you quietly put on hold? Maybe it's friendships, travel, painting, music, exercise, dreaming, whatever. Who made that rule that says those things have to wait? No one. Only you. Okay, permission slip number 3 that I want you to start giving yourself. Give yourself permission to stop waiting for perfect timing. I think this is so common, right? I'll do it when life slows down, when I have more money, when I'm healthier, when everything is easier. Who made that rule? Recently, I just got back 2 days ago from a 2-week European vacation that I took with 2 of my cousins. And logically, I had every reason not to go. I am currently suffering with neck pain that goes down my arm and back pain that goes down my leg. I most likely will need at least 1, maybe 2 surgeries. So I had this very big physical uncertainty that I was going to be able to do all the things. And then I have financial uncertainty, right? Something happened with my day job that is causing my income to most likely go down quite a bit. And I almost postponed. I looked into it to see, can I get my money back? And I could get some of it back. But then I realized that I've spent so many years waiting for everything to be just right. And life has almost never been convenient, right? It's very rarely convenient. If you wait for perfect, you can always find another reason. And here's the thing, there's a difference between wisdom, doing what maybe makes sense, and postponing your life. Sometimes we're protecting ourselves. Sometimes we're simply really postponing living. Only we know the difference. So what keeps getting moved for you to someday? What would happen if someday became now? Moving on to our last permission slip. I give myself permission to take the next step without having everything figured out. What's the rule? I need certainty before I begin. Who made that rule? Look, you know what? Here's where I am today. I have financial uncertainty due to my day job, my speaking career. That's something that's, I don't want to say always uncertain, but, the timing, will I be able to go with my physical limitations? I don't even know if I can right now stand for an hour without pain. And if I have pain, then I have to take a little bit of a pain pill, and that makes my head a little foggy. I have uncertainty. Do I need to sell my house? What about my business? What about my online store? What about everything? I don't know. I don't know. And all of this can cause me to freeze. It has caused me to freeze in a previous lifetime before I turned 50. Now I have a different perspective. And I don't know. I have no idea exactly how everything will turn out. But I know that I have to keep moving. Even though I don't know what everything is going to look like, that I have to keep dreaming and creating and keep taking that next step. The next step, whatever that is at this moment that I feel is right. Confidence doesn't come before action. Confidence actually grows because you take action. Every time that I forced myself to take action, it seems like things start to get a little clearer. If you take action, maybe it's telling you something. It's always going to tell you something. You either feel like it's in the right direction, or you still don't know, or you know for sure this isn't the way you want to go. But what happens when you don't take action? Everything is uncertain. You're not getting any answers. Waiting for certainty often means waiting forever because life is uncertain, right? Nothing is certain. Sometimes permission simply sounds, I don't know exactly where this leads, but I'm taking the next step anyway. So listen, here's some things that I want you to do. This is your little sprinkle of permission practice. Whenever you catch yourself saying, I can't, fill in the blank, whatever it is that you're telling yourself you can't do, I want you to pause. Realize that you're saying, I can't, that you're telling yourself this story, right? And then ask yourself, and you have to be honest when you ask yourself, what am I telling myself I'm not allowed to do? And then say, who made that rule? Is this a fact? Or is it just a belief? Is this rule protecting me or limiting me? What would I do if I gave myself permission? I want you to think about, where have I been waiting? What invisible rule has been running my life? Where has guilt been making my decisions? And what permission slip do I most need to write for myself today? Write yourself one permission slip. Finish this sentence. Today, I give myself permission to ... Then, take one tiny action. Not tomorrow. Take that one tiny action today. Because trust me, I know what happens if you don't do it today. It's going to slip out of your mind. Other things are going to rush in. Whatever you're doing, if you're driving, when you stop, take that one tiny action today. When I look back over my life, I realize none of the moments that changed me happened because someone else gave me permission. No one told me it was okay to take that first girls' trip. No one told me it was okay, except for my therapist, to keep writing or to start writing while Gary was dying. No one told me it was okay to take a vacation when my body hurt and my financial future felt uncertain. If I had waited for someone else to tell me it was okay, I might still be waiting. Life isn't something that we begin after caregiving, after grief, after retirement, or after certainty. Life is happening right now. It's happening right now. And we get to give ourselves permission. Maybe the life you've been waiting for doesn't require better circumstances. Maybe it simply requires one small, courageous decision to give yourself permission. Now, I want to remind you, if you go to my website, DebbieRWeiss.com, under free resources, I have 4 different free resources, and maybe this will help you in giving yourself permission. One is the types of self-care for caregivers, although it really is self-care for anyone and everyone, even if you currently are not a caregiver. The 5-minute caregiver reset. The Kickstart Change workbook to help kickstart change in your life. And the Small Shift Starter Guide. So go to DebbieRWeiss.com under free resources and check them out. They're there for you. Give yourself permission.